to the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside Louisville, Kentucky, home of the Kentucky Derby, and in Maryland, home of the Preakness, the Baltimore Orioles, Chesapeake Bay, and Blue Crabs. John Webster, how you doing?
Hey Gary, I'm
Did
doing
I
real
miss
good, man.
anything?
No, I think you got it all, man. Crabs,
Um,
seafood, Chesapeake Bay. You hit on everything, man. You hit on what you and Pitt would probably call a parlay. So, but you did a great job, man. Great job. Hope everybody's doing well. Another great week in sports. Excited to be here today and talk with you some more about what's going on. Before we get started, let me say hey to my main man, John Pitt. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's going on?
hey, we
I'm
are in the
doing great.
summertime, man. We're into John's favorite time of year.
It's getting nice and hot, man. Hey, John, I heard through the grapevine you were cooking cheeseburgers tonight. Is there a possibility you can maybe send me one?
Nah, I can't do that. You're too far, man. And it's probably not going to be any good. I'm used to the grill. I'm on the oven right now. I'm experimenting. So
Oh, oh man.
Hey, John,
You
I'll
doing it in the
just tell you,
oven. Oh man.
John, I'll just tell you this. Next time you cook it inside, put it on a frying pan. You'll love it.
sounds good. Send me more tips too.
Yeah. What you put in? I know you put something inside. I know you didn't just put them in the oven just alone like that.
Salt and pepper, man. Is it mushrooms?
Oh, you don't put any onions or green peppers in there?
Yeah,
Mushroom?
nah. It's
Mushroom
used to the
sauce?
grill.
Well,
Nah,
hmm, all right, all
next
right.
time.
That works, man. That still works. All right,
Hey,
man. See,
man,
now you got me hungry. Yeah, thinking about I mean, we're a day away from Game 3 of the NBA playoffs, and I'm hungry already. And look, I'm ready to get to Game 3, John. So let's get right into it. We're talking about a series tied at a game apiece, going to Indiana for two games where the Pacers could either take control or lose control, especially after that game two. What do you think?
well, being greedy, you want to win both of those games.
Hmm.
Being realistic, they came out of OKC with what they wanted. They won one game. They took home court away. They always say a series does not start until the home team loses at home.
Hmm.
We have a series now. Now, Sunday night, OKC was hitting on all cylinders. Uh, and let's be honest, even Thursday, they were hitting really well on all cylinders until the fourth quarter. I think one of the keys for this next game for Indiana, they had been playing behind the whole time. I think it's very important that they get off to a good start and they play from being ahead as behind. First quarter on Sunday, they were losing 26-20, but then the whole roof fell in on them in the second quarter, and they were down by, I think, 18 at halftime. I think Halliburton has to get involved with his scoring early. He is involved, but he's distributing and trying to be what some would call unselfish. I would say he has to become selfish, or another way to look at it, he's being selfish right now by not taking shots. He's trying to get his other players involved. But I think he needs to score early, still look for the pass and look for the open man, which he is wonderful at. But I think he needs to establish himself as putting some points on the board early. I think that will help them get control of the game. One thing I would like to say with the Sunday game, they got beat pretty bad, but there's different ways of being beat bad, Gary. So OKC beat the brakes off of Minnesota, but Minnesota couldn't even get the ball to half court, and they were struggling over and over and over again, making turnovers. On Sunday night, Indiana was getting shots, if you remember. They were getting some good looks. They just weren't falling. So they got the brakes beat off of them, but I think they got the brakes beat off of them because some of their shots weren't falling. And they go back to Indiana for this next game three. I think some of those shots will start to fall at home. Now, Indiana has not played very well at home throughout this playoff. They've been better on the road, but I think it's very imperative that they come out in game three, establish control of the game, get a lead, play the defense they play, and play from ahead as opposed to behind. And I think they really, really need to lock in and win game three. I would venture to say, I think this is a more important game for Indiana than I think it is for OKC. I still think this series goes 7 games, but the key to it going 7 is Indiana winning game three.
I definitely agree. Of course, we always talk about how game three is the most important game in a series like this, especially one that's tied, because yeah, and especially as we've seen with Indiana, that for them to close out their series, both of their series in 6 games or less, it involves winning game three. Now, of course, against the Knicks, they say they lost game three, but they were up 2-0. And, the way that it ended was the way that, that you said it would end in 6 games. I agree with you about Halliburton that while he has, I think it's 31 combined points in these 2 games, which is solid. That's not what Indiana needs to win this series. They need him, as you said, scoring often, early and often, to really have a chance. I do think this is a more pivotal game for Indiana than it is for Oklahoma City because, again, they haven't played that well at home, the Pacers. Oklahoma City, on the other hand, when you're playing on the road, you can play a lot looser, much like Indiana played in game one. Even in game two, when they trailed big, there wasn't it wasn't until probably about 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter that felt like Oklahoma City was in control because we've seen Indiana make up big leads. We've seen them make up 20-point leads. What 4 games, 3 or 4 games? They broke that incredible stat about teams trailing by 20 or more points to come back and win.
Mm-hmm.
And Indiana remains a dangerous team. I think if you're Oklahoma City, yes, you're great. You feel great about getting your swag back defensively and offensively, and most importantly, keeping your foot on the gas. That was the big thing in game one that cost them game one. Now I think again they can play a little looser on the road. They can't let the crowd get into it. And as we've seen in these playoffs with Indiana, the crowd sometimes is more into it than the Pacers, and the Pacers have to feed off of that. This Oklahoma City Thunder, on the other hand, they can't let it get to them, especially if they get behind. So my feeling is that they can keep it within 2 or 3 possessions if they're trailing. They're right where they want to be. But if you're Indiana, after getting beat by double digits, you got to come out. You got to establish it quickly. You've got to get Halliburton going early. Get guys like Caruso involved early, and I guess to an extent, I said Caruso. I meant to say Pascal Siakam. Yeah, you've got to get him involved. At the same time with Pascal Siakam, I think you have to really pick and choose your places where you give him a rest because as great as he's been in these playoffs, that you get to a point where you might rely on him too much and he starts to wear out a little bit. You could
Mm-hmm.
see that, he doesn't take any possessions off, but you could tell when he's dragging. And that I wonder if he's at that point where he's starting to drag a little bit and maybe he needs, a little bit more time on the bench to regroup. What do you think about that part with him? The X
Well,
Factor.
Siakam, he's giving you all he's got on both ends of the court. Well, all of them. Indiana is, as we've talked throughout the entire playoffs, they're tough on offense, but they're also tough on defense. I think what Indiana has to do, you have to find your rest times for Siakam, but you also have to realize, I know that the thing is you're worried because you're taking him off the floor and he's scoring, he's defending. Indiana's deep. Indiana is coming in the game with Matherin. They're coming in the game with McConnell. I sound like a broken record. You know, they're coming. They're 8 or 9 deep. Really, I think 9 deep. And they, you can give Siakam a rest. You can give him a rest. You can do it. I'm not saying extended time, but you can do it. Same way you give the rest to Halliburton. You know, you do the same with Siakam. I think they are deep enough. I think they're talented enough. I think they're disciplined enough that they can get Siakam that rest that he needs. Um, that's another thing that's going to be key. They're going to have to get some scoring out of their bench. The bench was not as productive the last game as they have been. You got to get your production out of them. And again, you look at it, Gary, they got beat pretty bad. It's one game. You throw it out the window and you go back and you keep going from there, you know, because it's one game and a lot of stuff did not go well for them. But I still believe in Indiana. I still believe Indiana takes this series 7 games and they win in 7.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sticking with the Thunder, and I'm still sticking with that defense. Really, really getting it done for them. Even though, Indiana is shooting well in this series, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're shooting almost 47%. That's not going to help OKC. They've got to bring that number down. They got to get it close to, like let's say that low 40s number, like in game two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, statistically, you're looking at everything other than say the total number of points favoring the Pacers, but that margin of victory, they proved that they could shoot off the after effects of just Halliburton making that incredible shot. Um, I think Oklahoma City just I think they found the rhythm that they want in game two. They just have to keep it up these next 2 games and take it to 7 games. If they can win one game and make it a 3-game series, I think that's when it starts to favor the Thunder.
Going to be very interesting, Gary. I still say this is 2 very evenly matched teams. I think this is going to be a very, very competitive and close series. But I think Indiana for this next game 3 is going to be able to pull it out and keep moving forward. You know, I don't think either one of them are going to stretch this thing out and get up 3-1 or something like that. I think it's going to be a back and forth series. You win one, we win one. You win one, we win one. So
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes, man.
Yeah, yeah. Getting it to 5 games as it stands right now, I think was really big for OKC. The the thing the thing I think I want to see from the Thunder, some of their rotations that sometimes kind of puzzle me. Sometimes with a smaller lineup that doesn't really suit their style. When they've got their big three, emphasis on big. That's when they seem to be the most effective. Yes, you have to take Shea Gilgeous-Alexander out for some stretches. Yeah, I mean everybody needs a blow, as they say. But sometimes when they go a little smaller, and I'm thinking that just plays right into Indiana's hands, and that's the only thing that really concerns me with them is some of their rotations. And from Indiana's standpoint, and I heard them mention this on one of the post games that um, in terms of Indiana's pace, that this is where Halliburton is so important for them, and it's not just scoring; it's about the pace that they want to maintain. When you mentioned at the beginning about him being selfish by being unselfish, that was an excellent point. And sometimes, guys like Halliburton who are making a name for themselves, especially in the playoffs, for being a take charge guy, being a distributor, being a game manager, being a floor general, as they say. Yeah, that's all great in terms of involving a very deep bench that Indiana has, but he's got to step up and be the star. He's got to show why he's the star. All this talk about him being, the most overrated player as voted by other players is puzzling to me, and I think it really has just become more of a talking point than anything because he has shown in all four series, that he is a factor that you have to account for him. As we broke down game one, and like what OKC didn't do against him defensively, it's like how does it end up in his hands almost every time in a clutch moment says a lot about what Rick Carlisle has done in games to make sure the best player on the floor or the best player on his team has it at clutch time. Um, that's the thing that OKC has to stay focused on, even though Shea Gilgeous-Alexander has got what 74 points, I think, in 2 games or something. So I mean, he's getting his points. You just have to. I think you're going to need a little bit more minutes wise from him, just so you can maintain the kind of pace that you want to keep up with Indiana.
Make really some really good points, Gary. One of the things I want to say, you mentioned about OKC and going small instead of being big. One of the things that you try not to do in these playoff series, you try, lack of a better term, you try not to flinch. What do I mean by that? Well, you don't want to be the coach who makes the first move. You want to make an adjustment later on after you play some games. I think Diganault, does I say his name right? The coach of OKC,
Yeah, yeah,
Diganault.
close enough.
So he made an adjustment in the first game of the series when he took Hartenstein and brought him off the bench. I don't think how do I want to say this? Well, I won't say I don't think he should have done it. That's not. I just think he would have been better served to continue with the lineup he had.
Mm-hmm.
It's not time to switch. What you have is working. Let them come out and show you that you're not doing something right. Then you can make the switch. I wouldn't have made the switch ahead, but that's not to say he was wrong with it. As he what you say, having forward thinking and trying to see what he can do to keep his team going. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah. What's that saying, John? That if it works, he's a genius. If it doesn't, he's an idiot. And
And what's the other old saying? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
oh, well, look, I got another one. Dance with who brung you. I mean, we got a whole bunch to bring out on that one. Um, Now, this is I think John Pitt might have mentioned this. I haven't seen the TV ratings for these first 2 games. It was a question about whether anybody would watch two small or smaller market teams in this in the series, and I was trying to find those numbers, and probably before we end, I'll find them and interject that. But has it been a compelling series in your mind, not just because it's 1-1, but has it been watchable?
Gary, I think you probably asking the wrong person because I'm a sports junkie. So it is compelling to me. I do want to watch it. I enjoy watching it. Um,
Mhm.
we talked before that there's probably some that wanted another team there or teams there, that we're in a larger market. Um, I don't. I leave up to you and Pitt to let me know how the ratings are going. I just know this is enjoyable. This
Yeah.
is two very good teams who are playing, and I honestly believe that if that larger market team from New York called the Knicks had been in this series, they would be down 2-0 right now. I don't even give them the chance to split in OKC. I think
Hmm.
they're down. But for some in the viewership, they find it more compelling because that's New York, that's Broadway, that's everything, Madison Square Garden. You're there. But I think you have the best matchup. I think they got the two best teams right now.
Yeah. All right. To answer the question about who's watching, well, for game two, a lot less were watching game two than last year's game two between Dallas and Boston. According to, I guess, what I'm seeing here on Sports Media Watch, that game two averaged 8.7 million viewers, down 29% from last year's 12.3. And it was the least watched game two of the finals since Heat Lakers in the fall of 2020, the bubble year. So, you know, chew on that, say, think what you want. But I think the longer the series goes, the more eyeballs will tune in and watch, and maybe the numbers can get back up.
Well, we'll see, man. We will see. Oh,
All right. So let's see. We've got another golf major coming up this week. The U.S. Open, the toughest of the four majors at Oakmont, which is one of the great golf courses to really watch the U.S. Open, and probably one of the toughest courses that anybody will play. What I love about the U.S. Open, John, is it's where some of the other courses are maybe built for a length. This one is definitely built for, making showing what kind of short game you have because
hmm
the scores tend to be a little higher in this one because it's not so much that it's a shorter course, Oakmont. It's just that it's a tougher course to play. There's less give than some, and a guy's short game really has to be in, has to be on point. And having said that, that's why I still like Scotty Scheffler because he's playing incredible golf right now. Um, this is one I think he wants. We all know, well, those of us that follow golf know about his short game, and really his thing is just his poise at key moments because even though he won by several strokes, won the PGA that is by several strokes, that he had a couple of wobbles early in the fourth round, um, gave up a couple of strokes on his lead, but just as fast, it seems like if that guy has a bogey, like let's just say he has a stretch of maybe two bogeys and three holes, the next thing will follow will be like, birdie, birdie, par, birdie, and
hmm
then he pulls away. It's like that game we used to play with the car where you're picking up somebody just as they start to pull it, get their
hmm
uh, hand on the handle that you pull ahead and everything, and they're like, come on, man, what you gonna do?
hmm
That's the way Scotty Scheffler plays right now. Um, guys like Bryson DeChambeau, I think can give him a go. I think I'd like to see how he plays at Oakmont because that's one of my favorite places. You know what my favorite course is, John, to watch
What is it?
in our backyard, man, Congressional.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
because it's a little bit of everything. And
hmm
yes, I'm a little prejudiced because yeah, it's right in our backyard, and the thing is, it's what just right up the road from where you work, right?
Yep. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
yeah. But I guess the reason why I like that is because it's a challenging course, but it's a fun course to see how long drivers, how big hitters can really, kind of tailor their game, maybe shorten it up a little bit. It's not a short course, but like I said, it's the greens there, the just yeah, just like Oakmont, the way that those greens lie, that you've really got to be perfect on just about every shot to have a chance at that one.
Well, here's the question. I'm going with Scheffler. Who are you going with?
Hmm. I'm trying to let's see. Okay, I'm going to give the edge to Scheffler only because I've seen him yeah in person. I've of course I've been watching these tournaments here lately. I'll tell you a guy who who seems to have his game together is Rory McIlroy. I mean, I give him a chance at that. Um, and I think this is the kind of course that plays into his short game very, very well. It's easy to pick the top names off, but they're the top names because really, I mean, they know how to play every just about every course well, and
Mhm.
and they can adapt to weather conditions. So, you know, yeah, with I think if anybody's going to knock off Scotty Scheffler, I think it's Rory McIlroy because by winning the PGA Championship, he's got his swag back in a sense when it comes to winning majors. And granted, it took him something like what 10, 11 years or something, but between. But better late than never. And yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I hear you, man. Tell me a little bit about this French Open and this young lady, Coco Golf.
Um, wow, resilience, resilience. Of the four majors, the French Open is a tough one to win. If you watch anything on clay, it's a serve and volley game. I mean,
Hmm.
it's just really about placement and patience because you could sit back there all day at the baseline, serve and volley, serve and volley. You don't see too much charge in the net on that.
Hmm.
If you've ever played tennis,
Hmm.
that's the thing I like about it that you can play a long volley like she did in that final. But the thing about her was that all of the mistakes that she made in the first set and dropping, not only losing the set, but dropping the tiebreaker against the number one player in the world, and then just bouncing back from that to win those next two sets really says a lot about her maturity, none of which should surprise us because we see that developing in her, but to do it in that setting in one again on a very very tough surface, it doesn't get any easier going to grass now with Wimbledon, but on clay, there are clay specialists that do well. I mean, Carlos Alcaraz, moving over to the men's side, the same thing, resilience. Yannick Sinner, um, I'm still trying to figure out, yeah, what happened there. But I think that was more about Alcaraz winning what he had to, especially in winning a tiebreaker and getting it to a fifth set. We're talking about almost a 5-hour match, and his patience, his focus. He found it better late than never and won as they moved to Wimbledon rather that it's going to be the usual suspects. Say Alcaraz, Sinner,
Hmm.
Novak Djokovic. Um, there's probably another name I'm forgetting, but again, you go from like say a patience from serve and volley to a court where you need patience, but you can charge the net a little bit more on that grass. You have to just make sure that you have a little bit more traction. Of course, in England this time of year, you're weather is a factor and how it affects that court. Before and after. If it's dry, if it's hot and dry, like like summertime, it almost becomes like a hard court. If there's some moisture, you have to just wait and see how it affects the court and the players. But that's one where, again, it's not like hard courts where it's like playing on your street. You can charge the net, you can try and play a serve and volley game, but that's more for placement than than really waiting for somebody else to make a mistake. Some of the shots that Alcaraz made in that final, he placed that ball very, very well from deep, and that's the thing. He kept the ball inbounds and got it where he wanted to. It just took him a couple of sets to really get going.
Well, Gary, a lot of interesting things going on. Go ahead and take us home, man.
Well, hey, John, we're in my favorite time of year baseball wise. I love June baseball from the rivalry standpoint. We now, you know, Gosh, I don't want to say anything about your Orioles. I don't want to depress you or anything, but as they play more divisional games this time of year, um, uh, you know, I, the Orioles I think are playing better baseball. They're not getting out of the cellar because they dug too deep a hole to get out of, but in some ways they're playing better baseball. You probably have a better viewpoint than I do about where they're playing better. I did watch some of the A series, and I think really I watched it more because I've got the Major League Baseball package, which I love, and it's like now that I can watch it on my big screen, watch just about any game. I'm trying to watch as much baseball, and those West Coast games, I love them. It means having to stay up late, but I love them. But from what I can see, the Orioles are playing better ball than than those first 6 weeks. And again, it might not help them get to 500. It's not going to help them get out of the cellar, but you're starting to see the needle move a little bit. Your thoughts?
Quick summation: they got a long way to go. They have played a little better, but they just lost 2 out of 3 to Oakland. And I just had a breaking news on my phone as they're having Jordan Westburg come back tonight and Cedric Mullins come back later this week. Jorge Mateo is going on the injury reserve today. So as you get better on one hand, there's still something else going on the other. So they're still my team. They always will be my team. I love my Orioles, but they're having a difficult year.
It's why we watch sports. It's why we talk about it, and it's why you should come back and see us again next week.
Hey, y'all. Thanks for coming with us again. Thanks for watching. As Gary said, watch some sports, watch some baseball, please, and watch and pray for my Orioles. But watch some watch some UFL football. Watch some NBA basketball. Watch some hockey. Watch how Edmonton's going to come back and beat the Florida Panthers. Just watch a little bit of everything. Watch some tennis. Watch some golf. But above all else, as Gary's making a face of what I just said about NHL hockey, just watch some sports. Take care and come back and see us real soon. See ya.
Enzo Clark.